Dunes, massive dunes, make up stage 10 of the Dakar as we go into the Atacama Desert, the driest in the world. Mark Comer and Sil Dupre shadow each other, but he's one playing games to take the overall lead. Argentine Orlando Terranova has nothing to lose as he goes flat out. Can he take the stage victory? Quick look back at yesterday's stage, up from La Serena on the shores of the Pacific into Copiapo. We are in the midst of a Chilean summer. Not that any of the crews had any chance to savour the view. Is that a blue sea or what? The rocky parts of the stage were hazardous for the tyres, and it demanded exceptional driving skill. Those rocks are volcanic rocks. The last thing you need is a puncture early on. The bikers took it steady. Many people are well under about 80% effort at the moment. What they've got to do is just get their machinery back to Buenos Aires on stage 14. And here we are today on stage 10. These images, though, from yesterday's stage 9, under searing heat, I can tell you, in the Atacama Desert. One of the McRae Enduros was taking it steadily, whilst, well, this Toyota was having a slightly more fundamental problem. I don't even need to translate. Up one side, down the other, and although the car isn't too badly damaged, the problem was he had completely broken the wheel.
Mucha adrenalina.
We have this special ring for you.
Yes, this is a ring, la rueda que se rompió.
We'll put him in his neck.
I can put
yeah, Cesar. Ave, Cesar.
So what they decided to do was, the only way to replace the wheel was actually dig out some of the ground underneath the stricken car, put the spare wheel on, and get one of the other Toyota RAV4s to pull it out, which eventually it did. And I can tell you, that car started this morning. Once more, this year's Dakar has been exceptionally tough on all of the competitors. During the first week, we saw an average of 20 or more bikers abandoning, retiring almost every day. If it wasn't rocks, it was the fesh, the ultra-fine dust that were catching so many people out. Now this is Eric Vigouroux, the sister Hummer to that of Robbie Gordon. And Vigouroux, finding that the big car was a little ungainly through the ditch, and all he could do now was plead for help. Try and slow somebody else down and say, can you try and pull me out? And that's exactly what happened. It's actually Bruce Garland that pulled him out, the man from Queensland in Australia. Other bikers were having trouble, but then once we get into the heart of the Atacama, things got quite spectacular. Now here is five-time German rally champion Matthias Kahl on board his buggy, discovering that you can't quite fling it around the corners such as you can a WRC car.
Sentinel an, oder? Sentinel.
And if it wasn't dust, it was water and the fans. The sign saying, greetings to the world. He managed to get it on TV, top job. Now we've had many hill climbs already in this year's Dakar, in Argentina and here in Chile, but we've also had some more yesterday. That's Alistair McRae, former British rally champion, having a go. Although it doesn't look very steep, it's just the angle of the camera, so What many people were then doing was letting the air out of the tyres, and this Chinese driver with his SMG buggy could get a little higher up the stage. Other people in their ex-works Mitsubishis decided that they could eventually crest the top of the hill. Massive climbs involved in the stage yesterday before everybody arrived safely at Copiapo. Stage 10 of the Dakar for 2009, a looping stage starting and finishing in Copiapo. It was to be the biggest stage of the rally at 670 kilometres, nearly twice that of a three-day World Rally Championship event, but it has been shortened to 476 kilometres instead. Dawn this morning over Copiapo, the Atacama Desert awakes from its slumber. In the foothills of the Andes, the start line was positioned just a few kilometres outside the service park, but there was a delay due to fog this morning. The fog was rolling in from the Pacific Ocean, and it meant that the helicopters couldn't get up in the air for safety reasons. Jürgen van der Gerberg, former 500cc and MotoGP rider, was at the start, and many of the riders swapping stories. 142 bikes and quads were at the start, but Cyril Desprez, he was adamant that the start was to be safe and to be all under control. Mark Comer, the overall leader, ahead of Cyril Desprez, with David Fretenier in second position. But once daylight really got going, the fog then went. Tall dunes were the order of the day, as Cyril Desprez was fifth off the start line. He only had Mark Comer 2 minutes ahead of him on the road, but then dramatically Cyril Desprez got lost after the sixth control point. But more importantly, Mark Comer followed Cyril Desprez. Now they went about 28 kilometres off the stage route, and by the time the pair of them rejoined the stage route, they were about 15 kilometres behind the other runners who had since leapt ahead of them on the road. Cyril Desprez therefore had lost 19 minutes on the stage leader at that point, but he managed to claw back some 7 minutes, but still Comer was missing. Comer, he started the day with a 64-minute overall lead, and we reckon at the time of this broadcast that Comer could be losing his overall lead, all other things being equal. If there's a problem with the GPS, and that's what the timing systems have not caught up on, then Comer may well still be in the rally, but Desprez is nearly at the finish as we speak. It's dramatic stuff. David Fretenier had a good run. He's trying to hold his second position in the overall standings. Fretenier was having a good run, but then towards the end of the stage lost 23 minutes. Maybe Mark Comer's overall lead will be saved by Fretenier losing time today. What about the Chilean and local hero, Francisco Lopez? He gained 3 positions yesterday to go from 7th to 4th in the overall standings. He needs to find 2 hours if he's got any chance at all of winning this rally. An unlikely situation, but Lopez, another one to lose out today. He's down in 11th position before the finish line. Searing heat once more out on the desert, and the Dakar organisers were warning how difficult the dunes would be. Very sharp dunes, they called them during the briefing last night, as one of the Team Scandinavia bikes gets stuck right on the crest of the dune. And once you get as David Schwartz manages to get over the top, the man from near Adelaide in South Australia, he's at 21st position in the overall standings and doing you all down under. Very proud indeed. Matacek still leading on the quads. How difficult will it be to get that over the crest of some of those dunes? Dare you gas it for a leap of faith, or dare you just take the better part of valour and take it steady? Matacek still in control there. Now Jordi Vierdoms, just before the finish line, was leading the sister machine to that of Mark Comer, leading and maybe going to be winning the stage. Vierdoms with a slight advantage over Alain Duclos. Vierdoms in 5th in the overall standings. He could be leaping to 4th come the finish line this afternoon. Here is Alain Duclos, the man from Mali, where the Dakar used to go to. Duclos, a Casley KTM Works rider this year. He's 2nd on the stage at the moment after 5 hours and 10 minutes of riding, but they've still crossed the line, and Duclos could be victorious come the end of the 476 kilometres today. Frans Verhoeven, the big, tall, strong, lanky Dutchman, he won the stage yesterday. He was going well this morning, but he's dropped a little time, 12 minutes into the final part of the stage today. Former KTM Works rider from Spain, Isidre Esteve Puyol, finished 4th on the Dakar a couple of times. But then he suffered a terrible crash a couple of years ago, and he's now a paraplegic. But he's fired up and ready to attack the Dakar after an incredible 2 years fighting to get back that competitive spirit. He's in the first year of 3 with the SsangYong car project on the Dakar. He says, well, how I operate the car is that we've got a gearbox, sequential or automatic. Normally, though, I use the automatic box. Here we have the steering wheel, and the bar underneath is the brake, a mechanical brake, and the accelerator is electronic. The thing that is most important is that the steering wheel has a quick rack. In other words, it means that when I'm racing, the maximum lock is about half a turn. Puyol's wife is part of the SsangYong team this year, and she's always there to help Isidre immediately out of the car, into one of the service cars, and then back to the hotel. Things not easy at all, as you can imagine. Once they're back in the hotel, his wife Lydia is actually a physiotherapist, so no better person to look after those weary shoulders. Isidre saying to come back onto the Dakar has never been an obsession as such, but when I had the opportunity to do this rally again, I thought, okay, I've got to try. I was quick on a bike, but I didn't know if I could make it in a car. His co-driver is actually one of his former KTM mechanics. He says, it is important for me to meet again these people and get the whole atmosphere of the rally once again. Maybe in the future I will start to push harder and get a result. But now it's just important for me to be satisfied and be around the people who have supported me over these last 2 years. Now the difference is when he was on 2 wheels, Esteve Puyol was navigating as well. But he says now many times I see the road ahead and I think I don't know what to do because it's Eric, my co-driver, who's navigating me, not myself. Sometimes he asks me, are you sure? And then I say, yeah, I've got the gut feeling that that is the right way. A real team effort going on with Isidre Esteve Puyol. Without Lydia, my wife, I certainly wouldn't be here. The best part of this team are all of the people. That is what makes it the best part. Puyol back in the Dakar. Towns have emerged around Copiapo, mining copper, silver and gold. But the question is, on this year's Dakar, who will get the gold medal come Buenos Aires? A 476 kilometre stage today, shortened from some 670 kilometres It was to be the longest stage of the entire rally, and the organisers last night warning people about the sharp dunes. Now you know exactly what they meant. They were running along the shores of the Pacific Ocean yesterday during stage 9, but here into the depths of the driest desert on the planet, the Atacama Desert, there was nothing but heat, heat, heat and dust all of the way. This gives you some idea of what it's like driving on board with one of the marathon class cars and then dropping down the other side. You think you really are going off the edge of the world. Now here is Dieter Depping, unbelievably, two Germans meeting each other in the middle of the desert, hitting Matthias Kael.
Nobody stands there and we cannot see after the dunes the car stand here. So I come over and then saw in the last moment the red car, but was too late.
You cannot believe it. There's always a collision on one Dakar, and this time it was Depping and Kael. Now here is Nicolas Gibon, the 27-year-old Frenchman from Le Havre. He's leading the T2 marathon class. Here is Queenslander Bruce Garland and Harry Suzuki. They're 18th overall in their Isuzu. What of Alfie Cox, the former Works KTM rider? He's not out, in fact he's in. They were up to 29th overall, but after the problems before the rest day, they're now 75th and in the rally. Here is Tim and Tom Coronel, the Dutch twins. Tom Coronel, the Seat World Touring Car driver, being victorious at Okayama this year. They had a terrible fifth stage, they're in 76th overall. Here is René Kuipers, another Dutchman. He's in a BMW, he had a late call-up, but he's inside the top 10 on this rally so far, in 9th position. Good run. Now then, here is the leading BMW, the man from Argentina. This is Orlando Terranova. He managed to gain 2 places yesterday, jumping up to 8th overall. He was leading the stage in the early stages today, but he has rolled and he's out. Now here is Ivar Erik Tollefsen. Fundamentally a simpler Nissan than the Works car that we saw with Colin McRae a few years ago. But the Norwegian, alongside him is Britt Quinn Evans, formerly a mechanic. It's his first Dakar as a co-driver. Tollefsen in 7th. Teammate Christoph Holovic is 1 place ahead of him, 6th in the overall standings. Holovic, the Pole, 2nd in the World Cup of 2008. He's had a massive TV following in Poland. There were 6 million people watching Holovic's progress a couple of nights ago. Robbie Gordon towards the end of the stage. He really was Flash Gordon this afternoon in his Hummer. Although he had problems early on in the stage, we're riding on board with the former IndyCar and kart and NASCAR winner. But soon leaping out of the car, fixing the problem. Getting the wheels back on terra firma, and Robbie Gordon soon back in today's stage. But Robbie Gordon leading the stage as the crews came towards the finish. Robbie Gordon could be up for his first Dakar stage victory of 2009. Robbie getting himself strapped in, co-driver making sure they go the right way. Look how difficult it is, but with an enormous amount of suspension travel with those special sand tyres right up his street. Gordon, can he make up those 36 minutes on the lone Mitsubishi of Nani Roma, who is in 4th position in the overall standings? Nani Roma taking it very steadily, so if Gordon's deciding to be brave on these last few stages, Gordon could get up to 4th and Roma could go down a spot. Here and now, Gordon has made 12 minutes on Nani Roma towards the end of today's stage. Still awaiting crews to get to the finish of today's stage. Very long. Can you imagine how long a day it was going to be for the crews had it not been shortened? Here are the leading crew. On the right, from Spain, Carlos Sainz, and on the left, Michel Perrin. He says, we know the history of this Dakar, and you've got to take care. We must be very careful. More at the beginning of the rally, that's where you've got to be careful. But we used our joker. There are still many kilometres to go, and we reckon that this stage today will be decisive. Carlos Sainz coming into the stage with a near 20-minute lead. The Volkswagen trio, Sainz, Miller and de Villiers, leading this rally. Carlos Sainz, can he keep those 20 minutes through this stage? Well, he can afford to lose a minute and a half to Robbie Gordon in the final few kilometres. He's not bothered about Gordon being victorious. What Sainz has got to do is keep ahead of de Villiers and Mark Miller, his two teammates. Here is de Villiers, and we reckon that de Villiers may well have lost second in the overall standings today. Hopefully his bad luck behind him. Mark Miller also chasing hard. ...476 kilometres for the trucks today, and 476 kilometres in the middle of a desert where it hasn't rained for nearly 300 years, and still 12 tons just managed to get over the top of the dunes. How do they do it? Andre de Azevedo, the man from Brazil in his Czech Republic Tatra, was going well, in touch, 15 minutes off the leader of the stage. Gerard de Roy was third coming through the first few checkpoints. Almost out of control, you rather fancy, as they went downhill in his Ginaf, the man from Holland. But the man from Holland was continuing to chase those Russians. Still leading the stage, Vladimir Chigin ahead of Fedoros Kabirov, as they just managed to skirt past many of the stricken cars. And as the stage goes on, these guys are still going to be racing well into the evening, well past sundown. It was a very late start this morning after fog held up the beginning of the stage, and it will mean that these guys may have had a lie-in, but they will be late coming back into service here at Copiapo tonight. The question is, in the remaining stages of this year's Dakar, can the Kamaz be beaten? Tomorrow, we head out of Copiapo back towards Argentina, over the Andes and into Fiambala, passing right next to the world's tallest active volcano at nearly 7,000 meters in height. The Dakar is certainly not over yet. Join us next time.